We begin with a concept woven so deeply into the fabric of our lives. It's almost invisible, yet overwhelmingly powerful. Mother. But today we're going beyond just the personal, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're diving headfirst into the archetypal, the sort of meta-spiritual significance of mother with a capital M.
Exactly. And our guide for this whole exploration is this really insightful work, Our Mothers.
Right.
And, forget your standard parenting advice books. This one, it really intricately blends theology, the language of poetry, psychoanalytic perspectives.
Both Freud and Jung, it looks.
Both Freud and Jung, yeah. Plus the wisdom of astrology and just these profoundly personal narratives. It really aims to illuminate what this fundamental concept truly embodies.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit then. For you, listening, our mission here is really to distill the most potent insights from this, well, pretty rich blend of ideas. We really want to grasp this multifaceted mother archetype and, its profound impact on your personal and spiritual growth.
Yeah, we're aiming for those, aha moments, things that might resonate really deeply with your own experiences of maternal influence.
Right, but keeping it engaging and clear, hopefully not too overwhelming.
Definitely. And just to give you a sense of where we're headed, we'll be exploring some fascinating concepts from the book. Things like the role of the theopoet.
Theopoet, okay.
Yeah, and the whole transformative approach of theopoetics. Also, Jung's ideas on individuation, the power of the sacred feminine, how astrology in the book specifically uses sun signs here, how that sheds light on maternal figures, the whole concept of the shadow.
Right, the Jungian shadow.
Exactly, and the overarching influence of what it calls the collective mother.
Okay, quite a journey ahead. So let's jump right in then. The book introduces this idea of a theopoet. What exactly does that term mean, and what is theopoetics?
So a theopoet, and interestingly, the book always capitalizes the T, kind of emphasizing its sacred nature. It's essentially someone who lives right at that intersection of theology and poetry. They use the language of art and literature, poetry, stories, maybe creative nonfiction, to explore and express spiritual, religious experiences.
So it's about embodying that connection.
Yeah.
Between the divine and creative expression.
Precisely. It's not just thinking about spirituality, it's feeling it, conveying it through creative means.
Gotcha. And theopoetics, is that the practice itself?
Yeah, theopoetics is the sort of dynamic approach that makes this happen. It's about intentionally weaving poetic imagination, the evocative power of metaphor, and our own very real embodied experiences into how we understand and talk about theological ideas.
Right, making it less abstract, more grounded in lived reality.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating is that it partly came out of those theological movements back in the 60s.
You'd have a God stuff.
Yeah, grappling with the nature of the divine in a changing world and really seeking to reconnect our physical existence, our bodies, with the sacred, the numinous.
Okay, so finding the sacred in our everyday lives and expressing that through art. What are some of the core principles, then, that underpin theopoetics, according to the book?
Well, the book highlights several key foundations. First and foremost is the vital role of poetic language and metaphor.
Okay.
Theopoetics really suggests that when we talk about spiritual truths, we shouldn't limit ourselves to just, dry doctrinal statements.
Right. Use the power of figurative language.
Exactly. To convey something deeper, more resonant. And second is the significance of embodiment and aesthetic experience. Recognizing that our physical bodies and our artistic expressions are powerful ways of engaging with the divine. This resonates across loads of mystical traditions, really.
That makes perfect sense. Spirituality isn't just something we think about, it's something we feel, right, in our bones and express through creativity.
Exactly. Theopoetics is also influenced by a theological perspective that sees the divine as more dynamic, constantly unfolding, rather than just fixed and all-powerful.
And postmodern thought, you mentioned.
Yeah, that encouragement to question those big, singular narratives. And finally, it really emphasizes a decentralization of authority in theology.
So valuing different voices, lived experience.
Precisely. Individual lived experiences as valid sources of divine insight. It's a much more open, kind of inclusive way of understanding the spiritual.
It sounds like it really opens up how we can connect with the divine. Now, the book also delves deep into the mother archetype. For for someone maybe not familiar with that term, what exactly is it?
Okay, so the mother archetype, and this is something explored in depth by Jungian psychology,
Right.
is a universal, deeply ingrained pattern within our collective unconscious. Think of it like a shared human blueprint almost.
So not my mother specifically, but a pattern.
Exactly. It's not about our individual mothers per se, but a fundamental energetic pattern. It embodies core life-giving forces like, creation, nurturance, protection, and the capacity for profound transformation.
But it's not all positive, right?
Yeah. No, and this is crucial. It also encompasses shadow aspects, things like the potential for destruction or maybe overbearing control.
Okay, so it's this powerful, almost primal force within all of us, shaping how we understand those core nurturing energies. What are some of its key expressions?
Well, the book really emphasizes nurturance and protection as central. This archetype is deeply connected to that life-giving energy, unconditional love, providing the care and support that fosters growth.
Like iconic figures.
Yeah, think about the Virgin Mary in Christianity or the Bodhisattva of compassion in Buddhism, maybe the mythological Sophia. They all embody this nurturing aspect, offering safety, comfort, unconditional acceptance, which is so fundamental for our self-esteem, our emotional security. It's that inherent understanding of needing and providing care.
Those are really powerful, universally recognized examples. What about the transformation aspect you mentioned earlier? How does that fit in?
Right. The mother archetype also plays a really significant role in our personal growth in what Jung called individuation.
That journey to becoming our whole self.
Exactly, that lifelong journey. And this process often involves encountering and, crucially, integrating both the nurturing and the shadow sides of the mother archetype within us.
So facing the difficult parts too.
Yeah. By consciously engaging with these seemingly opposing forces, we can start to heal from past emotional wounds and maybe cultivate those nurturing qualities in a balanced, healthy way in our own lives. It's about acknowledging the full spectrum.
Recognizing both the light and the dark and how they influence us on that path to wholeness. Okay. The book also draws on psychoanalytic perspectives, you said, Freud and Jung. How do their views on the mother figure differ?
Well, Freud, in his theories, he saw the mother as the very first, the primary object of attachment in early childhood.
The nourishing mother.
Exactly, the nourishing mother, the one providing basic care, emotional security. His whole Oedipus complex centers around the child's initial intense connection to the mother. And then the developmental process of separating, forming their own identity, navigating desires, societal rules, their developing sense of morality. So Freud's focus is really on that initial personal bond.
So Freud's lens is very much focused on that early individual relationship. How does Jung's perspective broaden that view then?
Jung took a much wider, almost spiritual approach. For him, the mother isn't just a personal figure from childhood.
Yeah, bigger than that.
Much bigger. It's a universal spiritual archetype in the collective unconscious, shaping our emotional landscape across cultures throughout our lives.
And it links to individuation.
Profoundly. His concept of individuation, that journey to psychological wholeness, is deeply influenced by this archetype. The mother is seen as this fundamental nurturing force for both psychological and spiritual development.
But he also saw the shadow side.
Oh, absolutely. Jung also recognized the existence of the terrible mother archetype. That darker side characterized by, say, overprotection, engulfment, emotional control. For Jung, individuation involves consciously confronting and integrating both these nurturing and, well, more destructive elements within the archetype.
To achieve personal transformation.
Exactly. He also drew on mythology figures like Persephone, Demeter, Sophia to illustrate this inherent duality, life-giving and life-taking power within the mother archetype. He suggested it can be a powerful gateway to deeper spiritual awareness.
Wow. Okay, so Jung sees it as this incredibly potent, almost cosmic force shaping us on multiple levels, way beyond just our personal history. Now, the book also brings in astrology, specifically focusing on sun signs for different mother figures. Why just the sun sign? Isn't that a bit limited?
Yeah, it's a fair question. The book does clarify that obviously a full astrological chart, moon, rising sign, all the planets and aspects gives a much more nuanced, complex picture of a person.
Right.
But the intentional focus just on the sun sign here serves a specific purpose. The sun sign in astrology represents the core essence of identity, your fundamental traits, core motivations, the overarching energy that shapes how you engage with the world.
Your ego, your sense of self.
Exactly. So by focusing solely on this, the book aims to highlight the primary archetypal qualities defining each mother figure it discusses. It allows for a clear, maybe more accessible understanding of their experiences and the energies they embody. It's about identifying those central themes.
Okay, so it's about getting to the heart of their fundamental identity, as seen through their sun sign. The book discusses Andrea, who has an Aries sun.
Right.
How does that connect to her experience as a mother?
Right, Andrea, the biological mother in the narrative, she's seen as strongly embodying the warrior archetype.
Classic Aries.
Totally. Deeply connected to Aries' fiery, assertive energy. So this manifests in her being, typically fiery, assertive, having this powerful inner resilience. It fuels a strong drive for independence, a pioneering spirit in how she navigates life.
And she faced hardships.
Yeah, the book mentions significant challenges like homelessness, leaving school, and how her inherent stubbornness, a very Aries trait, right, ultimately became a source of strength for her.
Like warrior strength.
Exactly. But it also explores potential shadow aspects. Impulsivity, maybe volatility, expressing anger as a form of authentic self-expression. Interestingly, it also notes her underlying romantic nature, suggesting this deep yearning for connection, maybe stemming from earlier emotional wounds. The insight here is how even seemingly challenging traits can be reframed as the strength of a warrior facing adversity.
So even the tough stuff is understood through this Aries lens as expressions of that core warrior energy. What about Esther? He's a Capricorn sun.
Esther, yeah, the grandmother figure. She embodies the wise elder archetype.
Which fits Capricorn's grounded energy.
Beautifully. This archetype brings qualities of deep, practical wisdom gained through experience, strong inner resilience, a pragmatic approach to guidance, and that natural sense of discipline and responsibility.
Very Capricorn.
Totally. Her profound commitment to family is highlighted, along with her characteristic silent love.
Silent love.
Yeah, that unwavering support expressed more through actions than words. And the invaluable lessons of patience and enduring hardship she imparted. The book connects her strongly to the earth element, emphasizing her stabilizing, protective presence.
Sounds like she was a real anchor. Okay, then there's Diana, a foster mother with a Virgo sun sign. How does that archetype manifest?
Diana embodies the archetype of the nurturing healer, and intriguingly, also connects with the Bruja archetype, the wise woman, the healer steeped in folk wisdom and spiritual practices.
Okay, interesting mix.
It is. Her Virgo traits shine through analytical, detail-oriented, deep commitment to service, striving for excellence, methodical approach to caregiving.
That's say Virgo.
Right. But the Bruja aspect brings in this connection to traditional knowledge, maybe understanding herbal remedies, folk wisdom, a broader spiritual awareness, connection to the unseen.
So practical and spiritual nurturing together.
Exactly. The book emphasizes how she integrated both this practical, hands-on nurturing with a more intuitive spiritual form of care. It's a fascinating blend of the earthly and the ethereal in her approach.
That is a fascinating combination. Then there's Denise, another Capricorn sun. How does her maternal archetype differ from Esther's, the wise elder?
Right. Denise embodies the powerful role of the cultural keeper and guardian of tradition.
Okay, also very Capricorn.
Yes. But also, perhaps surprisingly, the archetype of individuality.
How so?
While she deeply instilled a connection to cultural roots, emphasizing heritage and community, she also very strongly encouraged developing individuality, fostering self-sufficiency, resisting just conforming to expectations.
So tradition and independence.
Exactly. It highlights a different facet of Capricorn, that inner strength found in embracing one's own truth, and the wisdom in encouraging independent growth, even within a strong framework of tradition.
It's so interesting how the same sun sign can express itself in such distinct ways through these different archetypal lenses. Now, the book also delves into the shadow of the mother. What exactly does that refer to in this context?
So the shadow in Jungian psychology represents those repressed or denied aspects of ourselves, often parts we find unacceptable or that we're discouraged.
Right.
In the context of mother, this shadow often stems from our early experiences, particularly with our primary maternal figures. The book introduces this concept of the womb of becoming as that foundational space where these early imprints start to take shape. These early maternal influences can have a really significant impact on our core sense of confidence, our feeling of emotional safety, and can even lead to inheriting trauma across generations.
Wow.
The real insight here is recognizing that these difficult patterns aren't just personal failures, but maybe echoes of universal challenges within the maternal experience itself.
So it's like these early experiences create unconscious patterns that shape our lives in ways we might not even realize.
Exactly. We might not even be aware of them.
What are some of the specific silent wounds, as the book calls them, explored in relation to this shadow?
Yeah, it delves into several key ones. One big one is abandonment,
Okay.
which can be physical absence or maybe even more subtly damaging emotional neglect. This can profoundly affect self-perception, emotional security in relationships, lead to deep feelings of unworthiness.
That makes sense.
Another is control. This could be overprotection, excessively rigid rules, maybe emotional manipulation, all of which can really hinder developing autonomy, that process of individuation.
Stifling growth.
Yeah. The book also discusses broader emotional wounds, the complex interplay of love and fear in maternal relationships, the impact of conditional love, and the ways a mother's own unresolved traumas can be unconsciously projected onto her child.
These sound like really deep, often unspoken wounds with lasting effects. Is this shadow aspect just bad? Or is there potential for growth or understanding within it?
That's a great question. It's not entirely negative, no. The book actually points out the potential for these shadows to foster empathy, deeper understanding. Well, when we start to recognize our own shadow aspects, often shaped by those early experiences, it can actually make us more attuned to the emotional complexities and struggles of others.
It builds compassion.
Exactly. And furthermore, these shadows can serve as powerful catalysts for personal growth. They challenge both mothers and children to confront unresolved issues from the past and ultimately to evolve and heal. It's about bringing these unconscious patterns into the light.
That's a much more hopeful and nuanced perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly to the idea of the collective mother. What exactly is that concept?
The collective mother is presented as a kind of shared identity connecting women across generations.
Like a shared consciousness.
Sort of. It often manifests in rituals, traditions, shared wisdom, celebrating fertility, nurturing life, the bonds of community. Think about those shared experiences, folk wisdom, cultural practices, often passed down through female lineages. It's this overarching sense of shared womanhood and maternal experience that transcends individual relationships.
So this broader archetypal sense of shared maternal experience we all tap into. But the book also mentions a shadow of the collective mother. What does that entail?
Ah, yes. The shadow of the collective mother refers to those often unrealistic societal norms and idealized portrayals of motherhood within a culture.
Like the perfect mother myth.
Exactly. These can create immense pressure on individual mothers to conform to often impossible expectations, constant selflessness, unwavering patience, endless nurturing capacity.
Yeah, that's familiar.
Right. This pressure can, understandably, lead to significant feelings of inadequacy, guilt, even shame, when real life inevitably falls short of these idyllic, often unattainable images. It's the weight of cultural expectations.
That definitely resonates with a lot of the societal pressures around motherhood. So how can we find healing, find wholeness through this concept of the collective mother, despite the shadow?
Well, the book suggests several powerful ways. One is by consciously reclaiming ancestral wisdom.
How do you mean?
Really acknowledging and valuing the rich heritage of knowledge, skills, resilience passed down by mothers through generations. Connecting to our lineage can provide deep strength and guidance.
Okay.
The importance of communal care is also highlighted, emphasizing the vital role of mothers coming together, sharing experiences, offering mutual support, building strong communities.
Like it takes a village.
Exactly. That collective support can really alleviate isolation and significantly enhance well-being. And finally, engaging in spiritual practices that honor the feminine and the maternal can help reconnect us with the essence of the collective mother.
Like what kind of practices?
Maybe meditation, rituals specifically honoring motherhood, spending intentional time in nature, actively participating in community gatherings, all ways to tap into that deeper, shared wellspring of wisdom and support. Finding the collective mother in everyday life through supportive networks and mindfulness.
These all sound like really valuable ways to tap into a larger sense of connection. The book also explores the theopoetics of the reclaimed mother. What's that perspective about?
This concept delves into the sacred, the profound relationship between a woman's individual spiritual identity and the nurturing role she embodies, especially in motherhood.
So reframing motherhood.
Yeah, reframing it not just as biological or social, but as a deeply meaningful meta-spiritual vocation, where the presence of the divine actively intertwines with the everyday realities of life. It's about consciously reclaiming the inherent sacredness within the mothering experience.
Seeing those everyday acts of nurturing and caregiving as almost divine acts, like creation and connection.
Precisely. The book uses this beautiful metaphor, the womb, as a metaphor for creative gestation.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. Just as a physical womb provides a nurturing, safe environment for a fetus, it can also symbolize the essential nurturing space needed for new ideas, artistic endeavors, all forms of creative expression to flourish.
So it links mothering and the creative process.
Directly, emphasizing the profound importance of creating and holding a safe, supportive space for both children and creative passions to grow and thrive.
That's a really beautiful way to look at it. The book also touches on diverse lenses on the divine feminine. You mentioned Mujerista theology and Sophia.
Yes. Mujerista theology, which is deeply rooted in the lived experiences and struggles of Latina women. And it resonates powerfully with Black women's traditions of liberation. It offers this crucial perspective that God isn't some distant figure, but is actively present within the everyday struggles and resilience of those marginalized, oppressed.
For God within the oppressed community.
Exactly. It's communal, liberatory, affirming the sacred embodiment and divine agency of women historically on the margins. Sophia, on the other hand, is presented as the goddess of wisdom.
Ancient wisdom.
Right, a powerful embodiment of divine wisdom and feminine spirit, predating many traditional creation narratives. She's seen as this guiding presence emerging in art, ritual, personal metaphors, linking contemporary seekers to ancient traditions. Often seen as central to spiritual renewal, especially for women reconnecting with the sacred feminine.
It sounds like both offer incredibly powerful, grounded ways to understand the divine feminine in its various forms. Okay, finally, the book places a strong emphasis on healing generational patterns and finding strength within a mother's legacy. How does it connect these really important ideas?
Well, the book strongly underscores how a deeper understanding of mother's biological, archetypal, symbolic can significantly contribute to healing generational trauma.
Like the historical trauma mentioned.
Exactly, particularly acknowledging profound historical trauma, like the breaking of the enslaved mother and its lasting impact. It emphasizes the incredible transformative power of the mother on personal, psychological, even archetypal levels.
And this transformation involves challenges.
Oh yeah, often navigating significant challenges, journeying into the unconscious, courageously confronting the shadow aspects we talked about,
Right.
but ultimately leading to profound personal growth and deep healing. The book even suggests a miraculous healing potential can be unlocked through the experience of motherhood itself.
Leading to reclaiming agency.
Yeah.
Finding inner authority.
Exactly. And from the perspective of someone identifying as a wounded mother, finding strength and solace in those broader archetypal and ancestral mother figures is absolutely key.
Drawing on the positive archetype for resilience.
Yes, while also acknowledging and understanding that duality of the loving and terrible mother within the human experience. Ultimately, navigating the complexities of motherhood and our own mother complex, it can become this powerful, unexpected path to profound self-discovery and lasting transformation.
Wow. This has been such an incredibly rich and, multifaceted exploration of a concept that's just so central to all of our lives.
It really is.
To summarize it sounds like the concept of mother is truly so much more than just the individual who raised us. It's this incredibly profound, dynamic force, biological, psychological, archetypal, even meta-spiritual, that deeply shapes us all.
Exactly. And by gaining a deeper understanding of these different layers, as explored so beautifully in Our Mothers, you, our listener, can hopefully unlock some really valuable insights. Insights into your own personal journey, your relationships, your ongoing path of personal and spiritual growth.
So here's maybe a final thought for you to consider, to mull over. How might consciously recognizing the different facets of the mother archetype within yourself, within the maternal figures in your life, seeing the warrior, the wise elder, the nurturer, and yes, even acknowledging the shadow aspects.
Yeah.
How might that help you better understand the complexities of your own inner landscape?
And the profound influence of maternal energies on your life's journey. Which of these archetypes perhaps resonates most strongly with you right now?
Something to reflect on.
Definitely. And we also warmly encourage you to continue exploring the powerful themes we've touched upon today. Maybe even consider delving into the book Our Mothers itself.
And the poems too.
Oh, absolutely. Take a look at the Theopoems in the appendix titles like Mi Brujita, Dark Waters, Missing Daughters, A Fiery Woman, A Dying Flame, Mama Why, A Winter Moon. They offer further, really evocative avenues for your own personal reflection on femininity and the enduring power of maternal experiences.
This has truly been a deep dive into a foundational aspect of the human experience, one that continues to shape us throughout our lives. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. It's an ongoing journey of self-discovery and understanding for all of us.